A friend of mine named his dog 5 Miles so he could tell people he walked 5 miles, but today he ran over 5 miles. Today I'm going to recap a 2018 action sci-fi film called Higher Power. A man named Joseph Steadman reviews the video recordings of his family's seaside vacation from the past. Overwhelmed by emotion, he sheds tears and puffs on his cigarette, expressing his deep love for his daughter through the screen. Unknown to him, he's being spied on through a hidden camera in his light fixture. The person observing him and their motives remain a mystery. Joseph seeks professional help by visiting a therapist and discussing his violent temper and unstable state. His daughter Zoe, now 25, harbors resentment against him over her mother's death. His other daughter is in a dire state. She's been tangled up in drugs since the tender age of 17, lost in the world, and far from being as promising as Zoe. An unidentified man visits her, and they engage in sexual activity for drugs. Simultaneously, Zoe and a man named Michael Swafford are at the library. Despite the ominous forecast of his situation, Michael remains hopeful, thanks to Zoe's love. Their joy in each other's company is evident. Unbeknownst to them, an unknown individual keeps tabs on everyone through cameras. Joseph Steadman reaches a milestone in his journey to recovery, a year of sobriety. This is a significant accomplishment for him. He shares his painful past, speaking of when his wife passed away. He had turned to prayer but felt unheard. Consequently, he turned to alcohol and abandoned his daughters, which has led them to despise and avoid him. Joseph spends his days yearning for the days when he was a family man, living happily with his wife and daughters. On the anniversary of his sobriety, he waits for Zoe in his car and attempts to give her a gift. However, Zoe refuses to have any interaction with him, leaving him dejected. Michael steps in to shield Zoe from the distressing encounter, only to find himself on the receiving end of Joseph's wrath. After a heated argument with her father, Zoe leaves with Michael. Back at home, she tries to reach her sister Rhea over the phone, but her calls go unanswered. Suspecting Rhea has fallen back into drug use, Zoe is filled with worry. Michael, however, manages to calm her down. Sitting alone in his car under the rain, Joseph smokes as he relives painful memories of his wife's battle with cancer. She had implored him to accept the inevitable and stay strong for their daughters, but he held on to the hope of her survival. In the present, he comes to the devastating realization of the ruin he has brought upon his life. Suddenly, Joseph loses control, consuming pills and alcohol in his car. In a shocking twist, a man puts a bag over his head and knocks him unconscious. The individual observing says that it's the appointed moment and administers an injection into his own eyes. This man plays an audio recording of himself, addressing an Alcoholics Anonymous gathering. Having cameras implanted in his eyes, he can manipulate his own thoughts by presenting any visuals he desires. He subjects himself to horrifying images of the fallout of his past actions, including the sight of his deceased wife. He is coerced into aiming a gun at a girl standing in front of him. Despite his initial refusal, a mind-manipulated image of his daughter in immediate danger compels him to agree, leading him to pull the trigger. Unexpectedly, the girl is an imposter who uses a taser to incapacitate him. A voice informs him that he is the higher power that Joe once sought, and there are grand designs awaiting him. Joseph attempts to reach out to emergency services, but he's warned that contacting law enforcement would result in the murder of his daughters. In a dilemma about his next course of action, he is sent on yet another perilous mission. This time, he is tasked with assaulting the president of his company. The observer compels him to don a disguise and infiltrate the company building. Joseph is consumed with fear, but he proceeds to confront the company's president. A command is issued for him to aim a gun at the man and escort him to the safe, and Joseph complies. He coerces the man to extract a computer from a shelf and authenticate himself. After a failed data theft attempt from the computer, the observer orders him to sever the man's thumb, which Joseph reluctantly carries out. Upon descending, the observer instructs him to wear a mask retrieved from his backpack. A deadly gas is released, and Joseph must reach the main sector promptly to save his daughter. A security guard, partially unconscious, manages to shoot Joseph in the ear. He temporarily loses contact with the observer, but it's quickly restored, and he is directed towards the generator to complete his mission. As he enters through the large iron gates, intense shocks pulse through his body. The observer reveals that this procedure will align the numbers in his DNA and trigger a phenomenal event. Joseph Steadman withstands the ordeal and progresses to Phase 1. News of his death in an explosion reaches everyone. Zoe is distraught, believing her father died in the explosion and regretting not supporting him when she could. Joseph awakens at home, wrapped in tin foil. When he inquires about his family, the observer only infuriates him, leading to a powerful display of energy emanating from his hands, causing the walls to collapse. The observer comments that his former weaknesses, worry, rage, and disorder, have been transformed into a wellspring of power, bestowing him with extraordinary capabilities. The observer tries to stir up negative emotions in Joe by bringing up his late wife. With each outburst of fury, Joe's strength increases. The observer dispatches him to his daughter's drug dealer to intervene. Meanwhile, Zoe unwraps the gift from her father, discovering a stone from the same beach they were once upon in the video. At the same time, Joseph is navigating through a squalid underground scene filled with scantily clad women and menacing men. He finds himself at the mercy of a mobster who reveals that his daughter is living in the mobster's brothel, and a disturbing video of her abuse is shown. Joe's rage triggers a massive energy surge in the city, and he becomes a real-life avenging angel, aglow with electric charges, impervious to stabbings or bullets. He takes to the streets, tossing objects all around him. The observer chastises him for messing up again, just as the police arrive at the scene. The officers attempt to incapacitate Joe with a taser, ignorant of his unique trait, which leaves them unconscious. Nevertheless, Joseph is taken into custody and questioned about his presence at the locations of the previous day's explosions. He responds truthfully, but his words fall on deaf ears until the observer interjects into the conversation. The observer instructs Joe to claim he works for a higher power and reveal a bomb located on the 4th floor. When the officers get irate, Joe's anger surges, leading to the collapse of the police station. He finds himself by a car, jumps in, and speeds off, firing lightning bolts at the pursuing vehicles. Zoe watches the news about her father on television in disbelief. The observer informs Joe that he's ready to progress to the final stage. Concurrently, streaks of energy are seen across the city. Is this a sign of an impending apocalypse? The police are searching for the bomb, but they scatter in fear upon spotting a man glowing with electricity. He even brings down an airplane, causing it to crash. He then boards a subway train, appearing to have a sinister plan but showing hesitation. The observer tells Joe that he's transitioning into the last phase, then displays an image of his trapped daughter. Joe disperses the armed men with the debris of the building, while the observer watches the situation unfold in silence. Joseph approaches his daughter, soothing her fears and taking her with him. He assures her that everything will be fine, and that they will also retrieve her sister, before flying away together. It soon comes to light that Michael is the one behind all of this, orchestrating the entire insane experiment from start to finish. Upon spotting Zoe flying away from the ground with her father, Michael receives orders to shoot the girl, to which he complies. Joe is in disbelief as he feels his daughter slipping away, pleading with her not to leave him. The Watcher observes this scene and promptly presents Joseph with a video of his daughter being gunned down by men. Filled with rage, he finally transitions into the ultimate phase, enveloping the Earth's atmosphere with his energy and physical form. His immense size makes him hard to overlook, even from another planet. The Watcher proclaims that he has created a god out of him, and it's evident that his power is now envied by many. He's akin to Dr. Manhattan from Watchmen. The Watcher makes an unusual request. He wants him to save the planet Earth. That is to say, none of this was born out of malevolent intentions, but for the welfare of the Earth. However, what use is the Earth to Joseph Steadman if he has no one left in his life? No spouse, no children, who is he now? Joseph reflects on the words of his deceased wife, who had asked him to be strong, a promise he had made to her. He rescues his daughter by removing the bullet from her body and placing her on that same beach alongside Rhea. The sisters share an embrace on the beach, mirroring the scene from the video that Joseph had repeatedly watched with tearful eyes. As they hug, rocks levitate around them, their surroundings interwoven with Joseph's energy. If you enjoyed this video, don't be shy to hit the like button, and if you disliked it, hit the dislike button twice, just to be sure. It would be best if you watched the whole movie. Thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe for more videos like this.